You're listening to LVB Podcast Show with your friend, advocate, and host, Alvaro.
Hello and welcome to LVB Show. My name is Alvaro and I'm very happy to be with you tonight. Well, this is the second show of the new season and it's very exciting to have someone from New Zealand. His name is Paul Heerston and he is visually impaired, but he has not allowed his problem to, you would say, to stop him from achieving his dreams. And I'm telling you, he has done a lot, he has accomplished a lot, and that's the kind of people we like to have on LVB Show. It's been 7 years doing this show, and if you have been listening to the show on Podomatic, on YouTube, you know that what we want to do on the show is to showcase people who are doing a great job with what they have instead of complaining of what they don't have, which I always say to people. So, Paul, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
I'm delighted to be invited and to be a guest on your podcast, and it's just really awesome because I guess as we get into it, the region I'm in, I tend to feel a little bit isolated because of the my interest in the accessibility technology. So being able to reach out to folk like you is really good. It just makes you want to feel that you're not alone after all. So I am delighted to be part of this.
Thank you so much, Paul, and I have to agree with you, and I know our listeners do agree as well, because in my case, when I was first diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when I was 19 years old, and the ophthalmologist told me, you are getting blind soon. I mean, blindness is coming your way. He told me that way, and I was very shocked to hear that at 19 years old. And
I'm sure.
So I felt isolated myself, Paul, and what saved me a lot was the internet, because I was able to research and I found the Foundation Fighting Blindness. And I want to say hello to, I know some people from the foundation sometimes listen to the show, especially Sherry Rogers and Mel. I hope you're doing very well, and also Ed Plumacher from New York. So thanks to the Foundation Fighting Blindness website, I was able to get educated about what I had, and I was able to react in a better way to what was happening to me. It was very scary at the beginning, Paul, but then when you learn about it, when you understand that you are not the only one, then things start to improve.
I definitely agree with you. I just have, it just came to mind, some resistance. I can remember one person saying to me, well, not to me face to face, but intimated in his conversation that I like to surround myself with technology. And looking back on that, that was just so biased and so narrow-minded. I think people, until they experience vision impairment themselves, they really just don't understand. But that hasn't stopped me. I've just learnt to step out and speak up, and like you, use the internet to research and be informed. That's the thing.
Right. That's very important for our listeners. And Paul, what can you tell us about where you live in New Zealand?
Okay. I live in a city called Hastings, in a suburb called Flaxmere, just 5-10 minutes drive from the central business district. Hastings is a twin city with another one called Napier, about 20 minutes drive apart, and they are in the region called Hawke's Bay, which is on the east coast of the North Island in New Zealand. It's commonly known as the fruit bowl of New Zealand because of the long summer and sunshine hours that we have here. So a lot of vineyards. We just live next door to a vineyard, and orchards for a wide variety of fruits, apples, peaches, nectarines, plums, and kiwi fruit. I love living here because of the sunshine hours and a lot of things about it. It's it's not a huge city where 100,000. The region altogether would be about 120,000, but that's spread over a wide area. And it's a great place. I'm biased, I have to say that.
I believe you, Paul. I have to say, Paul, that I haven't met someone, any kind of person that says that New Zealand is not great. Because no, it's true. I mean, I know someone from my country, from Colombia, that went to New Zealand for a week and told me, best place I ever went, because it's so peaceful. It's so, I don't know. It has some. I have to go someday, Paul.
Oh, you do.
I have a very good friend called Maggie Rush. She's also visually impaired, and she always posts things about New Zealand, and it's very exciting. And also Jonathan Mosen, that I have interviewed here as well. So very interesting place to be, nice, friendly people, and so exciting to learn more about the country.
I don't know whether you're familiar with the reality show called The Amazing Race.
Oh, of course. I used to watch it on CBS, yeah.
Yeah, well, we just restarted looking at it from the very beginnings of series, and it's interesting that at least two of the shows we've watched, they've ended up in New Zealand, and so it's quite, it's really nice now seeing, and of course Phil Keegan, who compares the whole thing, he's a Kiwi as well.
Oh.
And so, yeah. So I don't know whether your listeners would realise that, New Zealanders are often referred to as Kiwis.
Right.
That's our national bird.
It's a great fruit, I have to say. Yeah, it's a little bit expensive in this country, my friend, but it's very good. It's very good. And Paul, what is the cause of your visual impairment?
Okay, I was born with congenital glaucoma. This is going back. I've got a few grey hairs, so it's going back to 1952 when I was born, and the surgery they tried to do with my left eye failed, and then the surgeon had just come back from England with some new techniques, persuaded my mother to let him operate, and they managed to save my right eye. So I was able to grew up in my hometown, Denham, and went to college as a normal kid. I wore glasses because I was short-sighted, and I had to eventually use eye drops to control the pressure, the intraocular pressure.
Right.
And that was always a pain because some of the drops gave me headaches and migraines. So I grew up, did all the usual normal things, went through college, and then I started training as a radiographer in my hometown hospital, working in the X-ray department, and I cope quite well with that. My vision, we call it, the acuity range was 6.6 in New Zealand, so mine was 6.9. So I could, if I wanted, I could legally drive a car with my vision. Anyway, time moves on, and we're moved around, got married, had some kids, and I was out running one morning, and in the early hours, I stepped off the footpath, ran on the road, and I ran into a tree, and I scratched my cornea of my good eye, and it's kind of went downhill after that. So cut a long story short, I've had 8 corneal grafts done, and back in 2014, they decided to put a Maltino valve plate in my right eye to help control the pressure, because the drugs I was using, it was just going higher and higher. And unfortunately, we had a mishap with that. It went pear-shaped, if I can use that expression. I ended up with a hemorrhage, and my retina's collapsed in, and all on top of my current corneal graft as well. So things were looking pretty grim. But my surgeon, there's 2 eye surgeons looking after me. We got through that, and things looked okay. I was looking at going back to work. My visual acuity was 636, which is the legal limit to become a member of the foundation. But all the surgical trauma and everything like that eventually caught up with me, and that graft just failed, went downhill, and I had to retire from radiography, which was a bit of a blow because I really loved it. It was my passion. Eventually, just after retiring, I was really just amazingly blown away because my colleagues nominated me for honorary membership of our National Institute.
Oh, wow.
So I attended that year conference where they invited me up to the stage and presented me with that award. So that really, it's hard to describe how getting something like that where being honoured for just your passion about doing the job properly. I was passionate about children and paediatric radiography. I ran study days, and I was part of chairing a branch of our institute, and I just loved doing it. I was really passionate about that, and I was really went out of my way to encourage my colleagues to achieve greater awareness and just to do better, really, especially in working with students. So that was a real honour. And then just at the end of last year, I got another blown away again, where some friends nominated me for what they call we have what we call a Kiwi Bank. That's one of a New Zealand run bank, and they have an annual not a competition, but it's where they get people to nominate local people as local heroes, and what they call Kiwi Bank Local Heroes, and so yours truly ended up getting nominated for one of those as well. So just for my background, but I'll try not to ramble on about all that. But I think I'm just really passionate about things.
Yes.
And so where I'm at now, as I say, I've got 8 corneal grafts. I'm having a bit of trouble with rejection at the moment, so things are kind of blurry. I'm going up to see my surgeon again in a week's time and see whether she says, let's redo it again. But in spite of that, I'm really focused on not sitting around doing nothing. As I said to you, I've embarked on a degree course, and it's my music and being involved in the community and church and music. And of course I have 3 children, a boy and 2 girls, and out of those I've got 15 grandkids, so spread around the country, so get involved with those as well.
Right.
So that's kind of where I've come to, medically speaking. Yeah.
So for our listeners, I think I was right when I said you have done a lot.
It's been a fruitful career, and I have no intention of letting it sort of slide away. Just not interested in retiring.
Right. That's I think that's the right attitude, Paul. Never retire. I think is best.
Yes.
I know many people, Paul, that says, you know what, I would like to retire at 40 or 50, and when they do that, they start to have their health diminish, and they don't find themselves anymore. And I always say to people, oh, we have to keep going always,
Yes.
no matter what, there will be always something to do, I would like to know from your perspective, many people in the visual impairment community would like to work at hospitals, but because of their visual impairment, they are scared. Will they be hired? How will the conditions be for them? Will people look out for them? How is that? What do you recommend for them?
Okay, well, my career as a radiographer certainly needs good eyesight because you're looking at x-rays on computer monitors and things like that. But hospitals has a wide variety of things. I mean, I know people who have been blind people who are physiotherapists. So you hear the physiotherapy, telephonists, answering phone calls coming into the hospital.
Right.
In my lifetime, I've worked with a visually impaired guy that was on the switchboard. My eye specialist in Auckland was saying that she knows of a blind secretary who transcribes the doctor's reports. So, touch typing, and you must think something like JAWS. Transcription services. Just thinking, these are just some of those areas that I believe visually impaired people can be involved in and have a career in. I'm just trying to think in other areas of the hospital, social work.
Right, social work. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. We have people who volunteer, but working in what we call assessment and rehabilitation. That's where people who have strokes or they're elderly and they have to come in for respite care or be assessed as to whether or not they have to go into retirement village or can still stay in their own home. Yeah. There are some areas that in a hospital that could visually impaired people could seriously look at considering. Yeah.
Now, Paul, I understand you are currently studying. I would like your take on people in the community that says, I lost my vision at 50 or at 60. I would like to go back to school, but how do I do that? What would you say to them about studying, regardless of the age you have, but if you have the passion for studying, no matter if you see or you don't see, it is possible.
Look, it is. Certainly, you need accessibility tools, and they're becoming more freely available. If I just explain what my setup here is, I am doing a bachelor degree in theology. It's a 4-year course. I'm in my 3rd year. I will get my degree this year because my previous studies and transcripts have enabled me to cut it by a year short. It's based in America, but our local church acts as a campus for it, and it's called Life Christian University. So there's 9 courses each year, and my wife, who has a double doctorate, I'm trying to catch up to her, is one of the lecturers. And so what she does is she gets the student notes and she converts them to a PDF format and emails them to me, so I can bring them up on my iPad. And as using Adobe, I can zoom in on the text to read it if I want to. And of course, I can change it to voiceover and have it read to me. And we have textbooks we have to read, and that was always a bit of a problem. I had to have a desktop magnifier. It's a Prodigy Duo from Humanware, and you could place a document underneath it, and it would scan it, bring the text up on the screen, and then it would read it back to you. But it would, I'd try to average like 12 pages of a textbook a day to get through it in the month, and it'd take about 30 seconds to scan each page, and then the time you lose in reading it. So it'd take me about, for 12 to 15 pages of the textbook, 2.5 hours to read it. And so it was a real bit of a bind. Okay, I'm retired and not at work, so I've got the time during the day to do that. And so we talked with our local foundation, and Israel, who's recently joined them from Mexico, talked to me about some software hardware called Open Book. And so he demonstrated that to me, and I now am using that. It is brilliant. I'm using a laptop, PC with Windows 10, and I took one of our old TVs, a 42-inch one, and I've got that plugged into my laptop, so I've got this huge screen to look at, and I use Zoom text to magnify and speak to the text if I want to. Open Book, I have a lamp camera up here. It looks like when it's set up, like a desk lamp. Mm-hmm. And I plugged it into my laptop, set up the software, and then I can select acquire an image or acquire a page, and you can set it so that as you turn the page, the lamp recognises, the software recognises that you've turned the page, and then scans automatically the next page for you, or pages. So you can I'd spend about an hour scanning the whole textbook, and I would save it in chapter formats. It has a special format for Open Book, but you can go into that afterwards and convert it to Word documents.
Oh, wow.
So for example, my last textbook had 6 chapters in it, so I scanned each chapter into a separate file, and ended up with 6 separate files of Word documents. I'd email that off my laptop to my iPad, and then I could read a whole chapter of, say, 30 pages in just under an hour by using voiceover and have it read back to me. And so I'm able to keep well ahead of the course and on top of things. And when scanning it, there are a few, so I wouldn't say glitches, but sometimes different fonts come out a little bit differently. But in the main, generally, reading the textbook is a breeze. I mean, it's a lot faster using Open Book than using my desktop Prodigy Duo from Humanware. I'd still use the desktop one if I wanted to fill in forms. If I have a take-home exam, then I put the exam questions underneath that and get nice and close and magnify the document up, and use a pen to use the screen to guide me to write in the spaces provided, or if it's multi-choice, just tick or cross whichever is appropriate. So that's really good. If our classes are on a Sunday evening from 6 till 9, and with 3 separate, have a break in between, and I use my iPad to just sort of keep up with the notes, and they record the sessions so that if anybody's away, you can pick these up from Dropbox and listen to them again if you need to. well, that's not part of the requirement, that if you at the end of the month, you have to tick the box saying you've read the textbook, you've read the notes, and you've done the exam. And so that's pretty much how I sort of keep on top of things. It's,
Paul, that's great information for people who are interested in studying. I would like to go back to Open Book. Is the name you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Open Book. Yes.
How much is it?
I think you're looking at here in New Zealand about 2,500. Now, I guess it depends. I talked about the lamp that looks like a desk lamp or a camera. If people have an existing flatbed scanner, then you don't need to have what they call the Pearl lamp. You just plug your flatbed scanner into your computer and use the software that way. The advantage with the lamp is that if you have a hardcover book or a softcover book, it's kind of hard to put those onto a flatbed scanner and close the lid on it. You've got more... the only time I really had difficulty with it is when I had a hardcover book and I needed two hands to hold the pages reasonably flat. It copes well if as normally the centre of the pages towards the centre of the book tend to curl, but it really copes really well with that, and nothing gets distorted. But with the hardcover textbook, I needed both hands, so I got one of my granddaughters to come in, and just once you start scanning, you just hit the space bar to start scanning the next page, and so she just did that for me. Otherwise, I can manage with my vision impairment scanning the textbook by myself.
I find this technology very important because I have a friend here in Colombia that is studying law, and he was telling me the problem is that when you have to scan a whole textbook, it takes probably 4 to 5 hours to go to a place where they're going to do a copy of every page, and it's going to take forever. This kind of technology, if it could be, I'm not sure how much in US dollars this would be, or if it could be 2,500 or less.
Yeah, the thing with technology here in New Zealand, the landing cost of importing things, and it tends to push the price up.
Right.
And of course, in America, if I give an example, there's just so much adaptive technology out there, and it's the economy of scale, I guess. You look at the population of visually impaired people in the States would obviously is high enough that they can produce this technology in greater volumes at a cheaper cost. Whereas in New Zealand, you're only really looking at about I think 4 to 7,000 people who are registered with the foundation. And that's a mixture of blind and people of various stages of vision impairment.
Right.
So for us, there's within New Zealand, there's not a lot to really choose from, and of course, my Prodigy Duo scanner desktop with the screen from Humanware. It's $8,000.
Oh, wow.
New Zealand. It's horrendous. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate in that because mine was a medical injury, we have what we call ACC in New Zealand. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with it. It's Accident Compensation Corporation.
Right.
And basically, our taxes go towards that. So if a New Zealander has an injury, then they go on ACC, and ACC works out their annual salary, and they get paid out 80. While they're on ACC, they get paid out 80% of their annual salary on a weekly basis, weekly compensation. And when they're returning to work, or ACC takes care of rehabilitation costs and surgery and things like that. And in my case, I get assessed by the local foundation people, and they make a recommendation as to the appropriate technology for me to be doing my study. So I'm fortunate that a lot of these costs have been covered, but I still have to get it approved and assessed by the foundation people to justify them paying out this sort of dollars.
Right.
So I'm sure, and I know Israel, who's come from Mexico and the States, said it's a lot cheaper in the States.
Right.
I'm not sure about where for you folk, but certainly I can understand if your friend has take it somewhere where they scan it, and 4 hours, my goodness. I mean, a typical textbook for me, say between 300 and 400 pages.
Right.
I would spend 2 hours, 2.5 hours tops.
Wow, there's nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah, just using, and it's just without anybody else's help.
Right.
Depending on the size of the textbook, there's a bar at the base of the camera that you line the page up with, and if it's a small textbook, then you extend it up, edge on so that it's, we'll say, not horizontal but vertical to 90 degrees to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So it will scan 2 pages at once.
Oh, wow.
And if it's a textbook that's more A4 size,
right,
then you just turn it around so it's the right way around, and you line up the page at the edge of this bar, and you scan a page at a time. So I guess, depending on, scanning 2 pages at once, you can get through it a lot quicker, but if you're scanning 1 page at a time, it's definitely faster for me.
Right.
As your friend has had to go through.
I didn't know about this technology, because many people, what they use is they try to find a free copy on PDF online, or maybe an audiobook, but so many titles are not available in those formats. So what do you do? So
yeah.
Do you know, Paul, if I know there are many scanners in this world today, does any kind of a scanner work for us to get the job done, or do we need this kind of open book technology?
Well, open book for me is good in that it cuts the time down that I spend using my desktop to read my textbook. And by the time you've scanned a page, it takes about 30 seconds to do that, and then you read it. Then you scan the next page. You've lost the continuity between pages.
Oh, right.
If you follow what I mean.
Yes, I do. Yes.
What on earth did I read last? Last page. So,
right.
I'll say this for the prodigy from Humanware, you can scan pages to a file, so that you could come back and read it later. I haven't actually done that myself. Mm-hmm. So I guess you could, if you wanted to, scan a textbook to its memory, and then come back and just read it with a bit more fluidly. But as I say, I haven't done that. I've just stuck to just scanning and refresh it, scan, refresh. But OpenBook is certainly a lot more friendly once I've sort of cottoned on to how to use it. I'll tell you what though, I'm not sure if you're familiar with there's two guys that I've have set up contacts with. One's called Derek Daniel, who runs Life After Sight Loss. He does podcasts. He's got a YouTube channel. He's also on Facebook. And he has central vision loss. And the other one is Sam. I've just forgotten his last name. But,
Sam from the Blind Spot?
Yes. And he just put up recently where he did a demo on 2 handheld scanners that he was just saying they're a cheaper version of the desktop that's like mine and he uses. And they're just like basically like a plug into a normal TV, and it's just basically like a mouse that you just run across the page or document that brings it up on the screen. I don't think it reads it out. One of them is a little bit more upmarket than the other one. I just can't remember the details, but they're on. It's on his site. It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
People, yeah.
We have to check it out.
So
yeah.
I just kind of looked at those because I'm interested, and he was demonstrating them as a cheaper alternative to the more expensive desktop scanners.
I have to say, Paul, you are giving very important information to our listeners. I have done this show for 7 years, and I never had a guest that talk about this kind of technology for reading books. It's wonderful because you need options, you know what I mean? And so you have things like Voice Dream Reader that is a wonderful application for the iPhone and iPad that I use to read books in PDF formats, Word documents, text documents. Also, you have PowerPoint documents, EPUB, and other things. But this kind of technology is very important because, as you know, in many countries we do not have printed material scanned, and it may be super costly to afford having to buy these books and then have to scan them, and everything is going to be very costly, and it's not very how to say that, it's not easy, and it's not practical for students or anyone who is trying to learn something from any book. But this kind of technology you're telling me about, and some things that he is demonstrating, those are very, very important. So
I'll tell you one thing that I did trial before Open Book.
Yes.
It's called Allcam. It's a adaptive technology that was developed in Israel, and I believe it's produced and sold in America. And basically, it's a digital camera. It's basically if you took a whiteboard marker, the size of a whiteboard marker, that's to be the size of the Allcam, and it attaches to the frame of your glasses on the side.
Okay.
And it has an earpiece, and the one that I trialed had a separate kind of like the size of a small cell phone that connected to the unit, and it would everything. So if you looked at any text, the thing would scan the text and read it back to you on the fly.
Oh wow!
It was, I thought it was brilliant, and I learnt of a optometrist, low vision person in Auckland, who actually had this device, and so I was able to travel up to Auckland, and I spent an hour or two with her where she demonstrated it to me, and then I was able to borrow it and bring it home to try it around home, because the difficulty is that the foundation people, they only recommend technology that they have actually used themselves.
Right.
And the people I was working with said, well, we see it, but we haven't seen it in use. We haven't used it ourselves, so we can't recommend that to the ACC people.
Right.
And what we were doing, are you familiar with Seeing AI?
I am very familiar with that. I think is the best application I have found in being able to. For our listeners, I did this test without knowing how it worked. I took a business card out of my pocket and I put my iPhone on top of the business card, and I put the option read small text or short text,
Yes.
something like that, and started to read the business card details back to me. That made it for me. I contact Microsoft to say thank you because
Yeah.
it's incredible technology. Yes.
Okay. I guess I thought I'd use Allcam to scan the page and all the textbooks and read it back to me straight away a lot faster. But we compete it with Seeing AI, and Seeing AI is a little bit more accurate.
Oh.
But without wasting too much time on it, Sam has actually done a demonstration of Allcam. He went grocery shopping with it, and
Is that so?
yeah.
And
yeah,
I can find that on YouTube too?
You're on his channel, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a recent one. Allcam, so that's ORCAM.
Yes, I have heard of the product. But what you're saying, Paul, is that if we go grocery shopping, is going to be able to find the price or something?
Yes, yeah, provided it's plain text. How it works is that because it's attached to the side of your glass frame, you would take your index finger vertically, and you'd point at the object you want read to you, and it would see you would recognize your finger, and it would read whatever text was in front of your finger.
Oh, that sounds incredible. How much is the Orcam thing?
In New Zealand dollars, 8,000.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll have to check in the US.
Yeah. I mean, so when we compared that with open book won hands down in terms of price.
Right.
Yeah, from my perspective, yeah. And the other technology that I have used is Be My Eyes.
Oh yeah, Be My Eyes is wonderful. But Paul, before I forget, because we have still some subjects to cover, and this is fascinating.
Oh, sure.
It's very fascinating to me. This.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I get a little bit wrapped up in the technology. I'm sorry.
No. You don't have to apologize because it's wonderful. I want to go deep into the grocery shopping thing, and I want your opinion. Many people. I have done interviews with app developers in the US, many of the biggest names in developing applications for the blind. I have done interviews with them through the years, but no one has been able to answer me when I say, okay, I want to go grocery shopping on my own, and let's say I find a cheese and I would like to know the cheese name, and I would like to know the price. Right now, for what you know, Paul, would you say the best technology is this Orcam device that you will point your finger to the cheese label and will be able to read back to you, or you think of something else?
Well, the good thing about Allcam and doing that is that your hands are free. So if you're carrying or pushing a trolley or carrying a basket, you've got a hand free to point at something.
Right. Good point.
Yeah. The Microsoft's Seeing AI, you're holding your phone.
Yes.
And directing, like small text, you're directing it at what you want to read. And it does it accurately. But you have to hold your phone, and while your other hand's holding onto a basket or whatever. Allcam leaves your hands free. That's the big benefit about it, and it's not all that heavy. Now there is another technology that I've been looking at. It's now I just can't think of his name, but he wrote a book. He was in the Twin Towers when the planes flew into it.
Oh, Maybe his name is Michael Heerston?
Yes.
I know the community, my friend.
Yeah. So Michael is involved in some new technology called AI.
Also, it's not
Aria.
Oh, Aria. That someone is gonna look through the camera and is gonna tell you what is in front of you, things like that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's the souped-up version of Be My Eyes.
Yeah. I know them.
You're wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem, Paul, with that is that it's very expensive because you have to buy like for minutes or hours. And I have a friend in New York who used it and said, I can't afford it. I mean, the technology is wonderful and all, but I can't afford it. Yes, but the idea is good. But Paul, I have a follow-up about the OrCam, and is this: if you don't have glasses, how do you use the device? Where do you put it?
Well, apparently, if you don't wear glasses, they actually send you a frames with it.
Okay. And would you be able to put it on a sunglasses?
Now the lady that I was dealing with, she said there is like what do we call it? There's a little attachment that you screw to the frame.
Okay.
So that you're able to pop it off. But there's a later version of OrCam that's come out that Sam was using, and it's it magnetizes so that you just it's on a lanyard, so you can have it hanging from your neck, and when you want to look at something, you just pick it up, and it magnetically sticks to the side of the glass frame.
Okay.
And therefore you can put it on either your left side or your right side, depending on which is your dominant side.
Right.
And I think in the battery it's all in one. There's no external computer unit like the one I tried out. It's all in one.
I see.
You can have earbuds, or you can just have it talking out loud to you.
Right.
And that's the one that Sam was demonstrating on his channel. And I find so. I don't know what the cost would be like in the States, but it's just going grocery shopping. That would be the way to go.
Wow, that's only with that thought, Paul, the interview was worth it for our listeners. But we have a lot to talk more about because
that's okay.
So I'm gonna. Because I want to go deep into another subject that is one of the biggest reasons you are here tonight, and we're going to talk about GPS technology, which is super fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But before I go into that, I would like to ask you 3 questions in one, if I could, and it's about music, one of my biggest passions. So you say you like music, and you like music therapy, and you like playing instruments, and you like making flutes. So what can you tell us about these 3 subjects in one, if you wish?
Okay. Bear with me a moment. So music therapy, the definition is the planned use of music to assist with the healing and personal growth of people with identified emotional, intellectual, physical, or social needs. And I guess the best way I can describe it, when I describe it to people, is that there was a movie called The King's Speech, and that's where King George in England, he had a stutter.
Yes, I saw the movie. It's a great movie.
You saw the movie. And you know how the Australian guy that dealt with him, he got him to sing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden his stutter disappeared.
Right.
And the thing with music therapy is that the brain, when people have a stroke and one side of the brain and the speech centre and that dies because of a stroke, whatever. But music, both sides of the brain respond to music, and in my research in that, I've done a presentation of my work colleagues in that for using music in a hospital situation for reducing the stress in people and reducing pain. I'm just thinking. I'll just get my thoughts in order.
That's okay.
So, because both sides of the brain respond to music, and this is the best way I can describe it. I had a music clip I got off YouTube of an orchestra tuning up, and you've got the audience there as well, and so you've got this hum of people's conversation in the background, and you've got the instruments tuning up, and our brain responds to music because the music signal is much clearer than speech or other sounds, so that when you listen to this sound clip, I can identify individual instruments tuning up, but the individual conversations people use, it's just a muzzle of sound. So that's the best way I can describe the effect that music has on us. We grow up with it. I was just looking at my notes here on music.
Sure.
Bear with me a moment.
Sure.
It's great meaning and is familiar to us all. Nearly on a daily basis, we use music to find comfort, relaxation, and motivation. And certainly for me, music is really a great and motivating issue. I learnt after my injury some years ago. I learnt to play flute because I always admired James Galway, who's a world-renowned flautist. So my wife bought me a teach-yourself flute, and we bought a cheap student one, and it kind of grew from there. And I've always had an interest in ethnic-type instruments. So now I have about 40 wind instruments made up of soprano and alto saxophone. I really enjoy playing soprano sax. Kenny G's an inspiration there.
Oh, Kenny G, Ray, I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's my orchestral flute. I just recently purchased a all silver professional model. Irish penny whistles. I have a range of those in different keys. I have a pan flute, a European style of 22 pipes, so it's an orchestral version. South American quena, it's an end-blown flute.
Oh.
And some Chinese and Japanese flutes made out of bamboo. So I enjoy playing them, pulling them out and playing them. I play as part of our music team in our church, playing the flute and saxophone. And the other one was, there's so much on the internet that you can pull down.
Right.
And I found instructions for creating Irish flutes and penny whistles from PVC plumbing pipe. So I've actually posted on my channel, YouTube channel, how I actually use adaptive technology to make my penny whistles out of plumbing pipe. And so if people are interested, they can just look for the blind whistler or go hunting for my name to find it. So I've just recently I've been making an Irish flute out of plumbing pipe, and then a friend came along with a piece of stainless steel pipe.
Wow.
And so I used his, drilling into I'd use a hand drill and my, phone and magnification devices to drill into the plastic pipe. It's a lot easier and a lot friendlier, and can put up with your mistakes. But stainless steel's a different story. So I marked out on the pipe, and he drilled the holes for me. So yeah, just with my vision I had, it was possible to do that. It just took me a lot longer, but the pleasure I got out of doing it, it's just really great. And I use those and their music at church as well. So I just really love my music.
Right.
Anything from classical all the way through to contemporary, pop and obviously Christian music as well.
If I may, two follow-up questions on music. One would be, do you sell the flutes that you make?
Well, I had intended to. I thought I could, run them off because they were quite easy to make. But this is where my vision started. My graph started to pack up on me, and so I haven't done that as such. I've just looked at creating them for my own pleasure at the moment. If things improve, I'll certainly go back to look at that as another option. We have what they call Trade Me website in New Zealand, and I've seen that a number of people who've done that. They've created, they've imported Chinese flutes and stuff like that, and they resell them on Trade Me as well. But I found a website in the States where and that's where I got my enthusiasm for. There's a gentleman there that he does it and sells them on the net. He makes a whole range of low whistles and high whistles, and but he uses a ceramic type plug at the end where you blow through, whereas I just use a wooden dowel until I find something more appropriate. The thing with the wooden dowel, if you play it often enough, the moisture from your breath tends to start to soak into the wood.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's not quite as good as, say, having something ceramic or plastic plug, which this gentleman uses.
Another question comes to mind also related to this subject, but it's because, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
So one question would be, many people in the visually impaired community say, okay, I do not have a job. I would like to do something with my hands. I would like to do jewelry, anything. Do you think, Paul, for people with a visual impairment, there is a real possibility of creating things, or it has to have a big talent to be able to achieve this?
I just think that if you got to go ahead and try, and if it doesn't work, then you try something else.
Right.
I guess, prior to my injury, I was very much into photography, photography is kind of part of radiography. So I was using a camera with telephoto lenses and working in the darkroom and creating art images that way. Now that's not possible for me now. However, smartphones have just got to the stage where it's just so easy to take a picture and it does it all for you. But my focus has become a bit more developing my music side. So you don't have to have eyes to play a flute.
Right.
I play by ear, so I obviously don't read music. But I've set out to teach myself to do that. I've gone online and to sharpen my technique and do things like that. And I just think there's so much out there that people are trying. There's other I've got a number of channels I follow on YouTube of vision impaired people who aren't limited. Derek Daniel on Life After Sight Loss. He's really good at motivating. I recommend people listen to him, have a look at his podcasts. in terms of daily living. I'm certainly focused on what I'm doing. I guess I'm not into sort of jewelry or other things like that. Origami, for example. I mean, I'm using origami to create paper aeroplanes for my grandsons.
Oh.
And, yeah. So I'm sure there has to be something out there, and it really comes down to, I think, give it a try. Don't sit back. Go looking for it. Give it a try. Use what technology you've got to see if you can achieve those things, and keep looking and trying until you do find something that you can enjoy and get a benefit from. Yeah.
Now, Paul, a big question for our listeners that also enjoy music is, it's very funny this talk, Paul, because I am asking more than one question in one. This is strange for me, but
it's okay.
It's because it's always related, and so the two questions would be: do you think age matters when you want to learn how to play an instrument? And second, do you think playing by ear is good enough for anyone to play, for instance, this saxophone that you know how to play?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. I have there's a YouTube channel I follow of a young lady who is totally blind, and she plays flute professionally, and she plays in an orchestra.
Oh wow!
And I just did a search because I have some YouTube channels of two flute teachers in the States, and who I kind of follow, and I put a question to one of them saying, do they know anyone who is visually impaired or blind flutist? And they said no. So I just did a search on the net, and I came up with this young lady that plays in the orchestra, and she does solo performances as well. And so that comes down to practice. Whether you're visually impaired or not, whether you're you have to practice. You have to practice scales. You have to, and for me, with my church music, I have to learn the songs from memory, and you can develop skills, I should say, and tips and things like that to assist in memorizing those tunes. And it is possible. It is possible to pick up any instrument. I started with flute, and I bought a sax. Well, actually, I hired a saxophone. You can do a hire to buy here in New Zealand. So if you try an instrument out, you can say hire it for a month to see whether it's the sort of thing you want to play, and if you don't, then you just send it back. And then if you really enjoy it, you can carry on hiring it. And after 12 months, what you've paid in rental goes towards the purchase price of the instrument. So,
what a great project, so to speak, Yeah.
So yes, I would say any instrument. Obviously, some are more hard than others. Playing oboe, I love the oboe, but my goodness, playing a double reed instrument, it's really out there.
Right.
Single reed's enough for me. Sax or clarinet.
Right.
And flute, and the various whistles that I've got. So yes, I believe anyone, if they've got the ability to hold a note or sing in tune or such like, should be able to play any instrument that they really desire to play it. Yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about GPS technology, which is the reason I found you, for our listeners, by chance. A little background about this is that I am fascinated with GPS technology. I have been told that GPS technology in any smartphone is not very accurate compared to certain dedicated devices like Garmin, because this Garmin device, they use map that is not done online, is a map of the city, is a map of the area. And we actually did a test with an Uber driver and I. So we went to a certain area using a mobile application on an Android device, and at the same time using Garmin to see if we would be able to get to the address in the same way using both devices. But the reality was that the mobile application failed to get us where we wanted to go exactly, but the Garmin device was able to get us right inside the apartment almost. So it was in front of the apartment. It was perfect. So when we talk about GPS technology and satellite and internet and all of this, my first question about the subject is, what is a TREKER Breeze and why to use such a device instead of a mobile application?
TREKER Breeze is from Humanware, and when I was looking at being rehabilitated back to being mobile independent, the lady Sue, who was part of the foundation, she was the, what they call now, mobility and orientation specialist.
Yes.
She came and had a chat with me, and she introduced me to the white cane again, and got one at the right length for me. And she said the New Zealand rep for Humanware was going to be demonstrated this TREKER Breeze at the local foundation offices. So I was able to go over there and also met Morris Sloan from Vision Associates here in New Zealand, who represents Humanware, and he was demonstrating the TREKER Breeze to me, and I was just blown away by it. I mean, I was aware, I'm familiar with GPS because we've got it in our car. You can have the ones that you can, they're mobile, that you can take out, and you've got our latest new car, of course, it's built in. And it's pretty good. What really impressed me with the TREKER Breeze straight off was that it wasn't dependent upon the internet, and therefore wouldn't be using data, which of course you've got to get the right sort of plan so that it doesn't end up costing you dollars.
Right.
Because mobile data can start to run away on you.
Right.
Especially here in New Zealand. And all of a sudden you end up with no more money on your phone. What I liked about the TREKER Breeze is that it directly communicated with the satellite, and the only thing that really was something to be taken into account of was the battery time, and for the TREKER Breeze that's usually 8 hours continuous use.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, so it is. Yes, yeah. So that's kind of where so that's my introduction to it. I guess I saw that prior to me actually becoming familiar with the fact that there are apps out there that you can have on your phone for for GPS usage. I've actually downloaded a few.
Oh.
There's a site called Apps Gone Free or App Advice.
Yes.
And that's I look at it daily because they advertise a whole, apps that they say are available free to download.
Right.
Whereas normally they would cost you something. So I've come across some GPS apps that I've just downloaded to try out. And of course, they use your data, and I'm just seeing whether it's I use my Apple phone. You'd have to use it with voiceover because you can't see the screen anyway.
Right.
But the thing I like about the TREKER Breeze, and if people go to my channel and have a look at this, if they can see it well enough, you can see that it's size of, say, a small cell phone that fits comfortably in your hand, and it's tactile friendly for use for finding out where the various buttons are, and they're set up in a way so like on the phone, and then the keypad on your phone, you've got the way the alphabet is set up on the keypad as well. On the TREKER Breeze, it's set up that way as well. So you've got 3 buttons across the top, 3 buttons across the middle, and 3 buttons across the bottom part of it. So that if you're dialing in a number, a letter or whatever, whereabouts. You don't have to have vision to see to know which button to press. Sorry, I hope I haven't confused you with that.
No, it's very easy to understand what you're saying, but I have a question about. Let me put you an example. Have you traveled to the U.S.?
No. Oh, beg your pardon. Yes, I have.
Oh, you have. Okay. Where have you been in the U.S.? What city?
Kentucky.
Kentucky, okay. So you have not been in New York?
No, we would have passed through it.
Oh, okay. You gotta go. But okay, so let's say you are in Kentucky. Let me put let's try to say, for instance, I'm not gonna name the application as such because I don't want to say, okay, this is better or not than that one, but I have many GPS applications on my iPhone, so I take one of them and I put the address, the destination, let's say I'm going to, and it's gonna start telling me, go right, go left, My question is, does your device do the same thing it talks when you are walking? And then tell me about the accuracy. Let's say you put McDonald's there. Is it going to be close enough to the McDonald's store door?
Yes. Yeah, my experience is yes. I'll say this about my TREKER Breeze. It's pretty much accurate down to within 10 meters.
Oh, wow.
So I can what I have done is I can put in what do they call it, location, so that when I go walking to my local, we call it the village, a little shopping centre. Right. The TREKER Breeze will tell me it'll say, oh, you are 15 metres from Flaxmere Avenue, and as you walk past different side streets, it'll tell you what those side streets' names are. And to say you were coming up to a roundabout. In fact, when I use it when I'm travelling with my wife in the car, just to sort of give me an idea whereabouts I am, or run a taxi, but it's more accurate when you're walking. So landmarks is the thing I was thinking of. So when I was walking, I get myself to the village, I've recorded landmarks as to where the pedestrian crossing is, to take me to the village. And as I walk around the village, I've recorded landmarks such as this is the dairy, this is the bakery, and here is the post office, and here is the chemist shop. Right. So, because when you walk into the village, it says, TREKER Breeze tells you you're walking into an open area.
Okay.
So because I've put landmarks in there, I can type in or go into the record landmarks and request it to direct me to that particular landmark, and I'll say turn north. Turn to you're facing north.
Right.
So whether you're facing north.
Right.
And it'll say the distance that it is away from you. So I became familiar because of my mobility instructor. We would walk past a certain pathway to get to the chemist shop in a safe manner, and so as we walked that, I would record these landmarks, so they gave me a clue as to whereabouts I was. And also, when I walked from home to the village, I recorded the actual trip, so that next time I came, I could actually ask TREKER Breeze to give me directions to get to the village.
Right.
And so, therefore, I would say, walk 100 metres, and then you'll come to this intersection, and turn right onto this street, and basically give me those directions to get to the village. You can, if you set out to go somewhere exploring, you can record as you go along, and so if you get lost, you can ask TREKER Breeze to retrace your steps to where you started from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of aspects of TREKER Breeze that I haven't really used myself. You can record or type in an address and ask TREKER Breeze to give you directions to get to that address, or record the address in there. When you've actually got. That's what I've done there. I've arrived at certain places. I've recorded them as a location, so I can then type in the location name and ask TREKER Breeze to give me directions to get there. So I've been able to get on a bus from just not outside far from my home, travel into town, and TREKER Breeze will tell me the streets as we're going by. So, and when I arrive at the bus station, it identifies that I'm at the town library or wherever I have to get off. And then I've set it up so that if I want to go from the bus stop, then I can walk to my daughter's home, which is on the other side of the business district, using TREKER Breeze, because we've done the walk and recorded it with my mobility instructor, because that's somewhere I might want to go. And so I'm able to walk through a busy town and crossing zebra crossings that are being recorded, and get to my daughter's home independently. And all due to TREKER Breeze.
That sounds very powerful device. For our listeners,
yes,
I did research. The cost of the device in the US is about $895, if I'm not mistaken, of the investigation I made. But I do believe that if you are able to afford this device, it's going to help you more than the other mobile applications in many of the things that Paul has told us tonight, and also because of the data that he's telling us that the mobile applications need and TREKER Breeze doesn't need. I would like to know about the particular maps of the cities. If you go into New York, how do you download the map of New York City?
The device comes with the maps already loaded.
Oh, of many countries?
So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So when mine was purchased for me, it already came with, I think New Zealand and Australian maps already loaded. And it has a little card in there, so that one's able to download or update the maps. So I would imagine that wherever a visually impaired person purchases the TREKER Breeze from, it would come loaded with the maps for their location.
Wow, that sounds very good. And you know, my last question on this subject would be, or not question but comment would be, for people that take the bus, as you're saying, and they need to go to a certain bus station every day. If you, as you say, if you record that as a landmark, right? You'll be able to get it. You'll be able to know where is it located approximately, and if you do that in the subway, also you'll be able to do that in a way. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking out loud. If you would be able to do that inside the subway station as such. I mean, if you're taking the subway and you go 3 stops away and you recorded the landmark of that stop, when you go into the subway and you're approaching that stop, if it's gonna say something, I don't know if that would work or not, but I'm saying if you are walking and you need to find the subway station exit or the entrance, if you have recorded that's a landmark, is going to help you too. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, it goes searching for the satellite to get to your location.
Right. Right.
Whether it would work indoors, probably not. But I believe that they're developing technology that will, what I've been reading about, that will get people within actually inside buildings. But yeah, for me, because where I live, I'm outside. We don't have subways as such in my city, and if I'm walking outside, it suits my purposes and really, really well.
Right.
And I guess the thing to do is, I've actually mentioned the TREKER Breeze to the likes of Sam, and I think he's indicated, he would try and see if he can get hold of a copy and try and do a demo at some stage. Otherwise, what I've done is I've gone on YouTube, and there are other visually impaired people who demo it, in various stages of their vision impairment. So, for me, it's brilliant.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I jump on the bus to come home. It's great, and warning me when my stop is coming up, because the drivers of the bus don't always know the streets. I ask them.
I have had that problem before, but Paul, in order to tell you what is the stop, you have recorded previously the landmark of your stop?
Yeah.
And then when you are on the bus is moving towards your stop, and when it's approaching it says 15 meters to your stop, something like that.
If you're walking a wood, what I do is I take my clue from the street, the name of the street prior to my stop.
Okay.
And I do use some visual clues. So I do have what vision I have. I try and use some visual clues, but otherwise I use the preceding street coming up as a clue. It's just it's from experience that occurs in doing that.
Right. So two more things. One, Paul, if you can stay a little bit, just 5 minutes more after the interview, I have a question for you. My final question for the interview is, how can people reach out for you and listen to your YouTube channel, etc.?
Okay, if they go looking for Paul Heerston, so that's PaulGeertson, that will find me, or probably a bit more accurately if they use my name. Otherwise, they can look for the Blind Whistler. That's BLIND Whistler, WHISTLER. But probably better to use my name, Paul Heerston, to try and find my channel that way. And yeah.
Well, Paul, it's been a privilege to...
Sorry, they can find me on Facebook too.
Okay. Well, like everybody, right? Like everybody these days is on Facebook as well. But Paul, listen, it's been a privilege to talk to you about so many important issues, important subjects, important topics for our community. I am going to be promoting this interview a lot in the community because there's a lot to learn from this. So for our listeners, remember always to be happy. This is Alvaro from LVB Show saying good night.